Who do you trust more to lead the Republican Party? Donald Trump, 58, Paul Ryan, 39.
I hope it's Donald Trump. He's getting the nomination. I mean, he should. He's wrapping up the nomination. Good Lord, I hope it is, because the person who's getting the nomination of our party is the person to lead our party.
All right, that was Paul Ryan responding to a poll that showed most Republicans think that Donald Trump is better trusted to lead the Republican Party than he. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, now author of Rediscovering God in America. And who knows, a possible running mate for Donald Trump, but all that's so tacky political, isn't it? All right, Speaker, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Good to be with you.
What did you think of that response on the part of Paul Ryan?
Very smart.
Yeah.
That's true. Look, I mean, the Speaker of the House is very big in the House, but he didn't go out and run in all those primaries. He didn't get more votes than any Republican in history. He hasn't been on television 7 days a week communicating with the American people. The leader of the Republican Party today is Donald Trump, period. End of story. Now, the leader of the House is Paul Ryan, and the leader of the Senate is Mitch McConnell. And under our Constitution, if future President Trump wants to get anything done, he's going to have a good relationship with those two guys.
Do you think, though, that they can? I mean, obviously, the thinking is that eventually Paul Ryan will come around to accepting Donald Trump as the party's nominee and endorsing him, because as chair of the Republican convention in that capacity, it would be weird, wouldn't it?
Well, he wouldn't chair it if he wasn't supporting him. And he's made very clear that he'll do whatever Trump wants him to, and if Trump doesn't want him to be at the convention, he won't go. But I think Trump does want him to be at the convention. I know for a fact that the Trump team and the Ryan team have been meeting this week. They've been working through very practical issues. Remember, if you're really going to govern, there are hundreds and hundreds of very specific questions that it's really useful to have sorted out. And what Ryan has done is he's created an environment to say, look, I want to work with you. I want to understand what you're going to try to accomplish. And by the way, as a guy who's been working on this a long time, I'd like to share with you what I'm thinking. So it's a two-way street. And in a sense, Trump becomes the bigger partner, and Ryan is the junior partner. But they're partners. Ryan is not a subordinate. The Speaker of the House does not work for the President of the United States. He can work with him, but they're constitutionally separate positions.
You know, you were instrumental in getting budgets under control, in getting people off of welfare and working. Now, you were in sync, oddly, at the time with the Democratic president, but you guys were in sync on those key goals. The president realized he kind of had to, after getting his hiney handed to him in the midterm elections. Be that as it may, it would be problematic, wouldn't it, if Donald Trump became president and he had frosty relations with the Speaker, or they weren't on the same page? How were those reconciled?
Well, it would be much, much harder. In 1898, when that happened, Thomas Reed, who's the first modern Speaker, resigned and went home to Maine to practice law. Said, look, you know, I can't go along with President McKinley's program, and it's not appropriate for me as the head of his party in the House to oppose him. So there are a lot of different ways you'd solve it, but I don't think that's going to be a problem here. I would point out, by the way, there's a certain mythology about dealing with Bill Clinton. We closed the government twice, and we closed it for a fairly long period of time, and we were in a knockdown, drag-out brawl, and finally the Clinton White House said, okay, we'll go along and balance the budget. But it didn't happen because we were pals on a Boy Scout trip cooking hot dogs. It happened because we, in a very muscular way, took the Clinton administration head on and forced them to concede the goals that we had.
And he spoke so highly of you. All right, now, one of the things I just want to ask you about is you're on that short list, we're told, for running mates for Donald Trump. How much credence do you put in that?
Well, I don't have any idea how long the short list is. I think if it's 200, I'm probably on it.
Well, we're told it's 5 or 6, and you are on it. I don't know how reliable that is.
I don't know. I know nothing about this stuff. I don't talk to anybody at the campaign about it. You know, I think that's something that there's only one person who matters, and that's Donald Trump. He will decide. It's the first really big decision that will shape his presidency. I think he intends not to decide until sometime in July, and I suspect people will get pretty tired speculating about it sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Now, you've spoken to me and others publicly about his manner and his demeanor, how he comports himself as a presidential candidate. Do you think any of that ever comes back to bite you, like Donald Trump says, oh, I remember what he said about me?
I don't know, and look, I don't try to say what I honestly believe, having figured out what it's going to mean in terms of relationship with Trump. Trump's a big boy. He's very tough. He's very smart. I tell him in private what I honestly believe, and I say in public what I honestly believe. I wish he was about 10% more presidential. That's not his style. I have a hunch this is the presidential style we're going to have to live with if he wins. But
are you worried
hand,
about that style? I mean, you talk about a book coming out, Rediscovering God in America. The rap against Donald Trump is he's pretty blunt, pretty crass with his language. And that bothers a lot of religious folks. It bothers those who aren't necessarily religious. How do you reconcile that?
Look, I think the most profound comment I heard, I was on with Tim Holzkamp from Kansas, and he said he doesn't want to let his 9-year-old son listen to Trump because he's not sure what Trump's going to say. And I think that's something that Donald ought to take seriously. The President of the United States has to be able to communicate with all 315 million Americans. And for younger Americans, he has to be a role model. He has to be somebody they can look up to. And I think we could use maybe a little more discipline and a little more self-restraint in that sense. He claims he's capable of it. Every once in a while he'll say, oh, I could be presidential, but you'll be bored. Well, I think a little bit of boredom in terms of certain kind of language would actually be good, because lots of young people take their cues from the President of the United States. And I think that it would be helpful for him to do that.
You know, there's nothing wrong with boring, Speaker. I built a career on it. So let me finally get your sense of the pandemonium now on the Democratic side. They're going to have a very divisive convention, it seems to me. What do you think?
I think one of the great ironies of this year is that after 17 candidates on our side got down to 1, we're going to have a relatively organized, positive convention in Cleveland. The Democrats, who are now locked in a death struggle between a truly unbelievable candidate who has increasing distrust every week and a socialist, Crazy Bernie, as Trump would call him, are finding that the bitterness is growing. I mean, Nevada was an example. Alaska this weekend was an example. I think they are in danger of having a convention that resembles 1968, in which the left simply goes berserk because they think they've been cheated by Clinton and by the Democratic National Committee. I thought the other night in Nevada, if I were a Democrat, that would have been a very troubling warning of what might happen when they go to their national convention.
All right, it is a flip side of what we thought would be the case. Speaker, it's always good having you. Thank you very, very much.
Take care.
All right, Newt Gingrich.